This is an introduction to the overlay plugin. This is the initial release of the overlay plugin with very little bells and whistles and known limitations, but I'm releasing it so that people can start playing with it and hopefully future versions will improve. So the overlay plugin allows you to draw on the screen and share that with other players. Once the GM activates the plugin, all of the players can contribute to the drawing and it will be shared between everybody else. So let's have a look. The default to turn the plugin on is right Control O for overlay. And as noted, only the GM can activate it. However, once activated, all players can contribute. So we can see that when we turn the overlay plugin on, we get this overlay mode little menu here, and that's telling us that we're in overlay mode. I've currently got my background set so that the overlay looks fully transparent or almost fully transparent. You can change that in the configuration file if you want to have kind of a little bit of a frosted look to the overlay. You can do that by changing the configuration, but I like to have mine clear. So how do we draw? You use the left mouse button to draw, and it's basically connects a series of points. So if I click and I click and I click and I click and I click, we're connecting the line. Now you can hold the left mouse button and draw. You can see it's got a little bit of a lag, but otherwise it will draw as the mouse moves. You should try to keep that to a minimum for a couple of reasons. When you're drawing like this, a lot more information needs to be sent to the other players. So if the other players have a low-end device, they might not appreciate that. And it is also sending more information on the network, which is a BR network, and if we overuse that too much, they might not appreciate that. Um, so it's there, but if possible, just do the clicks, and that will send out a lot less information and update much faster on other devices. Now, if you want to start drawing a new line, you can use the middle mouse button. That will end the current line, and then when you start drawing, it's going to be now a new line. Um, so that's basically it for drawing. We also have the right mouse button, which is the eraser, and it basically kind of erases uh, around where you're pointing. So if I go over here and start erasing, we can see that it's erasing. Now, from this, we can also see one of the first limitations that just came into view, and that is that clicks on the overlay still go down to the Talespire layer. I have tried ways to try to get around that, but so far I have been unsuccessful. So what that means is when you are doing your left mouse button and draw a line over the base um, of a mini, so if I do something like this, it'll draw the line, but you can see that it's also selected that mini because um, the click is also going down to the tail spiral layer. That's usually not that bad. The bigger problem is with the eraser, because when you're using the eraser, a right click on Talespire usually moves the camera. So you can see as I'm erasing, it's moving the camera. And what that means is if you just drew a nice circle or square around something on the screen and then use the eraser, that just moved the Talespire background, and now it may no longer be pointing at what you pointed. So yes, that is a known limitation. I'm hoping to resolve that in a future version, but it's not there right now. Uh, Up here, we have three functions. We have the X, which closes the overlay. It should be noted that if you close the overlay, the drawing that was there is still remembered. So if I close this and now reopen the overlay, we can see that the all of what we have drawn is still present there. How do we get rid of that? Well, that's the next one. The slash button, it clears the screen. And again, this is a cooperative function, so when I clear it, it's going to clear it for everyone. That is not currently restricted to GM. Maybe in the future I might do that, but at the moment anybody can clear. So your players should make sure that everybody's in agreement to clear before clearing, because there is no undo. And lastly, we've got the C, which is the color picker. Right now, it is very, very basic. I do not have a color picker at the moment. All it is a dialog box that asks you for the ARGB. That would be your transparency, your red, your green, and blue, and takes values from 1 to 255. So 255 is fully applied, um, 0 is not. So if you want a color that is fully opaque, that would be 255 for the alpha, and then however much of the red, green, and blue that you want. So for example, if I wanted to do a blue pen, I would do 255 for my alpha to make it fully solid, 0 for red, 0 for green, and 255 for my blue. Now if I start drawing, we can see that I've got blue. So yes, that's very rudimentary at the moment. I'm hoping to actually put in a real color picker at a future version. I thought there was another limitation that I was. Oh yes, there's also a somewhat of a limitation, and that is when you're starting a new line and you do the first click. Typically, unless you kind of move your mouse with it, there's no indication that you've actually clicked until you make your second click. So that can sometimes be a little misleading if you don't remember whether you stopped the current line or not. So that's a little bit, could be also improved. But yeah, that's the basics of it. You can now draw. Oh, yes, sorry. There is one last limitation. It's not really a limitation of the overlay plugin, but kind of its use. So as we said, all of the drawings are being shared with other players. That's not an issue. However, you need to keep in mind that normally players don't share the same view. So what that means is, as a GM, I might be looking at this from this angle, but another player could be looking at it from this angle. And now that overlay is going to be quite different. So what that means is if you're using the overlay to indicate maybe a creature or a building or something like that, um, you have to keep in mind that other players are not looking at the same direction as you are, and therefore if you highlight something for the other players, it could be somewhere completely different. One potential way that you might be able to get around that is to use the cutscene. So if the GM plays a cutscene, everybody's view should be the same. And then if you can use the overlay at that point, everybody should be talking about the same thing. Looks like here there's a glitch that when I clicked on the close, it actually drew a line there. I'll have to fix that. But yes, so this is the um, initial version of the overlay plugin. It's functional, but it still has some limitations, which I hope to fix in future releases. And that's about it.